Okay, so we are starting the regular meeting of the Auburn Water District Trustees. This is a regular meeting, just so everybody knows we're following strictly along the bylaws as deemed for. We have a long agenda and we've got a lot of business that we have to attend to today. So without further ado, we're going to move into the item number one, approve the regular minutes. Minutes from the last meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the regular minutes.
Okay, second from Eric. Any discussion? Okay, so all in favor? All opposed? And abstain? Yep. Yep. Andy was not here. Financial report, Tanya.
All right, revenues are favorable to budget, almost $30,000. There's an $83,000 variance in expenses, with payroll driving that, caused by the overtime on the main breaks and lack of capital work through the end of March. This should turn as projects begin. Cash on hand ended the first quarter at $1.9 million. We did receive our healthcare refund for 2021. The water portion of that is $25,000.
Quick question, we're still looking for 1 million cash on hand? Is that our goal still for this group?
It's around 600,
So
600,000.
So really-
That was the cash on hand threshold.
the,
that we-
the million is a danger, or the 600 is a danger?
600.
600 is a danger. And what's the danger for the sewer? Just curious.
About the same.
About the same, how much is in the sewer? Is that accurate?
They have some, that was significant, I think.
1.6.
last time. Yeah.
Okay, so we're doing good. All right.
And when we get to 1 million, then we start worrying whether we should be doing something before we get to that.
Yeah, you don't want to get to the,
The last time we waited till we got to
That's a
600,000.
critical point. I mean, you don't want to, we try not to get down there.
My question was, you said water main breaks had a lot to do with an increased budget so far this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that just makes my point clear that we need to do what we can to replace more pipe. A lot of it was, I mean, I don't know if we got reports or not, but most of it is the old cast iron or, you know, the mains that need to be replaced. And we should be doing it to save money, not only, also the water quality. Also, I had a question about, looks like the 120 day is creeping up.
It fluctuates.
Yeah, I would wonder why. I mean, are we still having more and more people being added to the 120, or is it just the same group that?
We've had a couple significant water leaks that were pretty substantial this winter, and those were on payment plans.
Water leak, so they
Water
have an
leaks
internal water leak.
in their homes, yeah. We had a couple that were very extensive, so that didn't help that
So
number
we're
at
not
all.
gonna put on some.
Yep, and they're on payment plans to get that down.
And we never did hear from anybody regarding the COVID relief funds and getting any kind of help to assist folks that had problems with their water bill during the COVID.
We did hear a little bit about that. Main State Housing's the one gonna be doling that out, and they were pretty busy this winter with the LIHEAP funding. So it sounded like as warmer weather came, they were gonna focus more on that.
It seems like a lot of folks have gotten help, and that's one area that seems to have been neglected, in my opinion. But-
Yep, no, I think it's coming.
And then the only other question I had relates to this sheet that talks about the sharing of Lewiston.
Yep.
Is it possible for us to think about it for the future? And I know we're busy next, so we have to discuss it, but I noticed the water usage has been changing, and it's back to 60/40 instead of 36/64. Is that, I don't know what causes that to happen. All of a sudden, they're back to 60/40, or is it, I don't know if that's something.
no, it fluctuates. It's never going to be the same every month or so.
No, I know that.
It could be, and something as simple as a few water breaks that we have that they might not have in the same month. I mean, things like that can adjust the water usage too.
I'm just gonna watch that more closely as we go towards that, because I think sometimes we might, in our negotiations, could offer a deal where all the current expenses change. Instead of 50/50, they go to usage, and then if we have an accurate, every month, depiction of what their usage is, we could use that, just like they do with vodka. Just,
That's all I have.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? All right.
A motion to ratify the payment of the bills.
I'll second that.
Okay,
for the printout, dated, whatever it is.
yeah. Anybody have any comments? Bob, are you good?
I'm good, yeah, have a few questions changed to care of. Mike took care of them.
Great.
Good.
Excellent. So, all in favor, ratifying payment of bills? Okay, excellent. So that's gonna move us to, our first executive session. I'll need a motion.
I make a motion, we go into executive session in accordance with 1 MSRA 5056A to discuss it. That's not a personnel
No,
matter?
405, 6E, we're on number 4.
6E, I'm sorry, to discuss a legal matter.
Somebody got a second? Second. All right, all in favor? Okay. Well, I declare us out of an executive session. Okay,
I'd like to make a motion to send notice to Drummond and Woodson. Let's see, to send notice to Drummond and Woodson that we no longer need their proposed legal counsel and to engage with Eaton and Peabody for future legal services.
second. Second. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? 7-0.
Tanya, you good on that?
Yep. And
Okay.
to send notice to Drummond and Woodson and that we no longer want their services and to engage with Eaton and Peabody.
They're proposed, right, okay. And now, we're going back into, we have a motion to go back into,
I think Steve, I think you want to amend the
Motion
agenda.
to suspend the
Oh,
rules and amend the agenda.
that's right, go ahead, yeah.
Motion to suspend the rules and amend the agenda to remove the first item under new business executive session in accordance with 1 MRSA 405-6E. Scratch that off entirely. And as we discussed earlier, change number 5 on the agenda and go into that now. Change number 5 as, sorry, I'm amending the
Yeah,
agenda.
just legal matter.
As a legal matter, which we talked about. So
I thought it's just separate motions. Aren't we just voting to suspend the rules to just remove that item
we're
first?
removed, right, because the other one's already done.
We
Correct.
gotta,
Yeah.
all right, we gotta agree to suspend the rules. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of suspending the rules? Okay, great. Now, make a motion to
Motion
motion
to remove
9 and move it to
the
4.
first bullet in 9 and,
Move it to 5.
Under new business,
yes, under new business. And
the
then,
executive session part of it.
yeah, and move that to, into, what,
Into number
Number
5.
five.
basically, yeah,
Into
number
executive
5.
So we're
session
doing
number
two-
5.
two
Number
changes
5,
to the
executive
agenda.
session.
Right.
Two
Which-
changes.
We're eliminating number
Yes.
5 and
We're
moving number 9A up to number 5.
And that, right.
Eliminate 5.
Yeah, but moving executives, item 9A up to number 5.
So we informally said legal earlier, but this
This
is
is
just as
formal
final,
making, right.
formalizing.
And I'll second Mr. Titus's motion.
Okay, all in favor? Okay,
You're into executive session.
yep, we'll move.
Okay,
All right, we are out of executive session. Okay, now, I want to just read, this is not a public, this is not a public hearing. This is a business meeting specifically to accomplish business of our Auburn Water District trustees. So I'm going to read the public comment rules
From the bylaws, right?
from the bylaws. And I don't know if anybody's planning on, if that's all who's going to.
yes. No.
In conducting regular meetings of the Board of Trustees, the President, and this is a regular meeting, the President shall allow an opportunity for any member of the public then present to address the Board of Trustees. A member of the public wishing to address the Board of Trustees should notify the President or Superintendent of the topic he/she wishes to address prior to the call to order, and the President shall permit public comment at the appropriate time and for a reasonable duration. The President shall have the authority to terminate public comment that is exhaustive, duplicative, or unreasonably lengthy. So, I know that you all have come here to come and talk to us. Technically, nobody presented anything to myself or to Mr. Hazelton on what you wanted to talk about. So I am going to let you guys have your speak. Have your, if you want to say something, now is the time. But it's already 5:25, so if anybody would like to have something to say, now is the time.
Open session.
Open session.
It's technically public, yeah, it's technically,
Is that Celia?
Hi there.
Hi, good to see you.
So, I just wanted to preface that we have, and the reason being, if you weren't here last week, or last month, it was a circus, and it was my fault for not running this meeting in the way that it should, and we had press, and it was a circus. So, I want to be fair to you guys for waiting, and if anybody would like to have something to say, please, by all means. I think, sir, you have some, yes, please,
Yes.
sir.
My name is Roland Rancourt. I live on Fairview Avenue in Auburn. I have lived in Auburn almost all my life. I can assure you I'll keep my comments brief. I would have gladly submitted
Yes.
my reasons for speaking tonight had I have known, and so if it happens in the future, I'll make sure I do that. I'd like to thank you for having the opportunity to speak here. I guess because you've never seen me before, that's a sign, at least on my part, that everything was going fine with the Auburn Water District, meaning that I was in approval of everything they were doing to protect Lake Auburn and the watershed. Obviously, because of what's taken place in the last several weeks, that's now changing. And it has the attention of a lot of people in Lewiston and Auburn, and that includes myself. Right now, and I'm sure there are more, but there are 3 people that I know of for sure that are in favor of seeing that the watershed gets changed, along with potentially an increase in housing density. And that's Mayor Jason Levesque, Mr. Dan Bilodeau, and for reasons unknown to me, my councilman, Stephen Milks. And I can't for the life of me figure out why at the last meeting he was the only one that voted in favor of the proposal that they were voting on. At any rate, I think, one, Jason Levesque does not own Lake Auburn.
Okay, sir, in fairness, we're not going to have this kind of discussion.
Okay.
If you're against the changes, okay, that's it. I'm telling you, I appreciate where you're coming from, but we're not gonna, we had people slandering members of the board
Okay.
last time in the last meeting. I am not, it's
I
done,
understand.
it's over.
I understand.
Say your piece, but do not mention, because I'm Steve Milks, okay? I'm in favor of the septic. It's an improved septic design system, okay? That's what I'm in favor of. I don't know what you're talking about, but you named me, so I'm going to address it.
Okay, and my comments are based on this premise.
That what I voted for, I was the only one. What did I vote on that I was the only one that voted?
On the septic issue.
What do you? We voted 5-1.
That was another one of my questions. And it depends on what your answer is, to how far or to what extent I want to make my comment. When this board voted to approve the septic systems, did that apply to existing homes, or did it open the door for future construction? That was one question.
It's an ordinance.
Beg your
We
pardon?
approved the ordinance. We approved the change of the ordinance
Okay.
based on science. The development of the lake is a different issue altogether.
Hey, Steve, there's no back and forth and.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah.
So I've been more than
Yeah.
generous with the time here. Is there anything else that you have to say? I didn't have to let you talk.
Yes, I wanted to say that I'm hoping that this board will seriously consider the request for a moratorium put forth by Mayor Shalin in Lewiston.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And sir, I'm Dan Bilodeau. Is your daughter Michelle and Michael?
Yes.
I went to school with your kids. I love them, man. They're
Okay,
good guys.
yes. Okay.
Anybody else?
Who?
Okay. Closed. Activity report.
All right, I know we have a lot on the agenda tonight. I'll be brief. Did anyone have any questions on the activity report itself? If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me at any time. I'll just jump right to project update if that's all right. I know you guys have a lot. So a couple things I want to say. I did go to a meeting up in Augusta last week with the Maine Water Utilities Association. This was a bi-monthly meeting of the association. We got a regulatory update from the drinking water program. There was folks there from the SRF grant programs. There was all kinds of different updates on all stuff water up at the state capitol. One thing that became evident at that meeting was that there is a major supply and demand issue, as we all knew. We knew there's been some inflation issues. But what is going on right now is people are canceling pipe replacement, treatment plant upgrade projects all throughout the state because they can't get pipe and materials within the project limits set with these projects. So that was pretty clear. We were fortunate. We did order the majority of our materials for this 2022 construction season. So good news is we have plenty of pipe to keep ourselves in business. I am a little worried. I didn't order all the projects. There are a couple of projects that I was hoping to get to later this summer. I'm going to be working to order those, but right now I'm being told there's a 25 to 30 week lead time on all pipe and materials. So I just wanted to make you aware of that, just so you know. I'm gonna try my very best to get those materials to make sure that we can do the jobs that we had planned and budgeted for this year, but there are some things that are out of our control right now, and we may need to push some projects back. At this time, I don't have anything to push back. I just want to give you that as an FYI. In our 2022 budget, we did have, in our equipment budget, we had approved $11,500, or actually we had approved $10,000 for the purchase of a cleanup bucket for our excavator. We got pricing. This is a big steel bucket, and the price of steel has gone up, so the estimate did go up to $11,500. The sewer board agreed to purchase half of that. It's already voted in the budget, so it's more of an FYI. We try to let you know when we do these equipment purchases. We are not going to go over our equipment budget by buying this, even though it's slightly more than what we budgeted. But we would like to purchase that bucket. I do have quotes for that if anybody wanted to see that, but it's $11,500. We're going to get that cleanup bucket.
Last summer, we borrowed, Longchamp let us borrow theirs for our projects.
We were borrowing a bucket last year.
Free.
So,
Free.
So, another one that's kind of I think you saw in the SIDS memo for the meeting. One thing that I was going to bring up was our paving bid. Every year we go out to bid on all of our paving needs. We go out and we measure all the quantities of things that we have to pave based on what happened over the winter. Obviously, we had a bunch of water main breaks, so we had a bunch of little patches we had to do everywhere. We put those quantities into the bid with the city of Auburn. That was made public. It was sent to all the paving contractors around. We only got one bidder on that paving bid, and the price has doubled from what we were paying for paving last year. There aren't any other options, so I don't know if it's a voting action. The city of Auburn already awarded the contract, and our quantities were within that. So I don't know if it's more of an FYI. But if anybody wanted to see a copy of that bid,
Spencer Paving?
It's Spencer Paving. Yep.
Yeah, and Mike, we already talked about when we actually budgeted for almost double what we normally do for pipe replacement.
I did increase our numbers. Yeah, I was
So-
expecting the inflation. So this is just something to be aware of. But if anybody wants a copy of that, I have those there.
On his topic, you mentioned you thankfully had the foresight in January to buy this pipe before everyone else put their orders in. And that's the reason we have this pipe to do our project with, because Mike had the foresight to order it in January. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad we were able to get it. We were sitting pretty good at that meeting. There was nobody else that had pipe to do their jobs.
Let me ask
So,
you, when you get this information, the bid, is it personnel cost or material cost, or what is the primary
you don't
driver?
you pay a price per square yard.
But they don't tell you how it breaks down.
No, we don't get a breakdown of that. You pay per square yard of paving, and it's based off the different methods. So the different methods are the thicknesses of pavement. So there's a method for Minot Ave, which is a 5-inch, 3 lifts, and then there's a method for a side street, which is going to be 2 lifts, binder and surface. So it's, you pay per square yard, which includes tonnage, labor. It includes them going to a section that we had cut out and patched. They clean the patch out, they cut the edges, they put down tack, they compact, put the binder in, compact, put the surface down, roll.
I
That's
understand,
what
we
we
get
pay
an
for.
itemized bill when they've done something for us?
Yes,
So
and
that would show us materials and labor, right?
no, it's just per square
I
yard.
just wish we could find that out, because I mean, now everything's gone up.
I
But
know,
would be-
like paving in general, I think, pretty sure it's tied to the price of oil, so that has a
Which-
major
Directly,
driving force.
Directly tied.
Yeah.
Spencer does good work, watch him.
Oh, yeah, I just,
I do have a couple of action items. So in our capital budget, we had approved work on Vernon, Grove, Rowe, Blake, Burns, Taylor, Ash. It's a number of side streets. This section of town, that project was bid by the city of Auburn for reconstruction. That bid's been awarded to Longchamp, so they are going to reconstruct those roads, and we are going to in-house replace all of the water mains in those streets. We have budgeted $465,400 to do that work. I would like to get a motion and a second to proceed with that, because we would like to get started on that.
Todd, you good with that if we say so moved? His motion?
Yep,
so
absolutely.
move.
And I'll second it.
Any discussion?
How does that amount compare to what we put, you would have put as?
That is the amount that we put in the budget. If we wind up going over, I will come back to you and say why we're going over, and we'll decide if we want to proceed or not.
Does it seem like you don't know, have any indication?
I
based on
feel
what you just-
comfortable that we're going to be able to do this work within that budget number. I feel like I increased our price per foot, and that I built a higher number this year based off what I thought inflation was going to be.
Cool.
I still think we're going to make it. I'm hopeful. We're going to go for it.
Anything else? All in favor?
Just one item. Sid, any additional comments?
No.
Okay.
All in favor? Okay, that passes unanimously.
The other project is 3rd Street. That was a project that was bid and awarded last year. The work did not get completed because they got a late start on the project, so that spilled over into this year. So we do have $140,000 budgeted to replace the remaining section of water main on 3rd Street, and I would like to proceed with that as well.
I'll move.
Second?
One question I have is that part of last year's budget? Or is that this
No,
year's?
we carried money
You
this
carried
year
over.
for that.
So it's not part of the 1.2 million that we budgeted, that should be over and above that. If it was last year's money that didn't
It's
get-
part of this year's budget.
This year's
It is part of this year's budget.
It's part of
so
this year's
carry over.
budget.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else?
Excellent.
Anybody else? Okay, all in favor? Okay,
All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
thank you, Mike. Good job, good work on getting that pipe. Okay, we are now to old business, election of officers. We've got, Dan, do you have the list of?
Kevin
officers?
actually has it right here.
Kevin's got it, okay, Kevin, you wanna read them off?
Yes, we have President Steve Miltz, Treasurer Andy Titus, Superintendent Sid Hazelton, Clerk Tanya Dunn, Auditor H.R.H. Smith. And I make a motion that we approve the whole slate.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
And just a
Any
question for
further discussion?
Sid, the auditor is still good and everyone still wants to do this? Andy?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I have no
Treasurer?
problem.
Okay, good.
Absolutely, yeah, no problem.
Can I back up?
Believe me, if I had a problem, you'll
I wasn't asking you the one.
Anybody else wanna do it?
Run what you can.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Okay. Officers pass.
Send those bonus checks out.
All right, we are at the review of the bylaws and protection of Lake Auburn and report from the committee.
So, as chairman of the committee, working with Jason Paulina for the last 2 years, we've gotten to the point where I've passed around everyone this little sheet. This is a condensed list of the 8-page recommendation from our attorneys on how we proceed with the bylaws. So we just had a meeting a couple days ago, and working with the city of Auburn and Ms. Mosier, who's the GIS expert, I'm looking for an action item, not on the bylaws, because we still have other procedures to go through, but the map on the back, which is outdated, it's 31 years old. I would like to see the trustees' motion to approve this link, which brings you to the most current update.
You have it written down?
I don't have anything written down on
This
that.
is for the map only.
Right here.
For the map only.
For the, right,
Auburn Main dot map.
Yep, so someone can just look at that map and read, the name of the map is the Lake Auburn Watershed Overlay District. And maybe Jason can make that.
revised.
Revised, and the date was April 11th, 2022. Well, actually, I think you might have it.
I have a motion ready as soon as we're done
Okay.
discussing it.
Oh, well, let's do the
That's all.
motion, then we'll have discussion.
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve changes to the watershed boundaries as approved by the city of Auburn and as shown on the GIS map via a link which is auburnmain.maps.arcgis.com. Search watershed protection
You have a copy?
I
overlay district.
do not have a copy.
Here, give this to her. I'll give it to her.
All right.
Beat me to it, Bob.
Again, that link is auburnmain.maps.arcgis.com and search the Auburn Watershed Overlay District as shown and as of April 11th, 2022.
And I think just you need the date, April 11th.
Second, we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Discussion?
Just, this map reflects the new boundaries of the Grace Lawn Pit.
That's correct.
And a few additional ones according to Eric Cousins. Just over the years, we have never updated our watershed map based on the works that were done.
Now we have a living document that still has to be reviewed based on the rules of our bylaws on a regular basis. However, the link at least is the most pertinent information that anybody can access at any time. It just could be reviewed and changed over time.
You said 2 other boundaries have been changed as well?
Do you remember when Norm took the Auburn Business Development Zone in the 2010 Comprehensive Plan? That one was, I know, that had changed, and the other one, I'm trying to remember what he had said.
But it never got changed. He wanted to do it,
Yeah.
but it never got.
And what you can do is, when you look online, the overlay has our map, and then it shows the new watershed boundary based on the geological survey. And there's a really good description in an email that I can provide for you, Sid, from Ms. Mosier, how they use the satellite imagery and how they constantly update the watershed parcels. But you look at that red line, and it falls outside of the limits or inside of the limits. It pretty much generally covers the same watershed boundary, but there are areas that are completely different from what we did 31 years ago.
Andy, did you have that motion written down?
Yeah.
Can I take a picture of it after the
Well, I don't
meeting?
know if you can read my writing. Let me write it out for you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Can we continue the discussion while he does
Sure.
that?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a few concerns. The bottom of page 5 of the bylaws of the protection of Lake Auburn, Auburn Water District.
Yep.
Number 5, very bottom. The draft.
Yep. Okay, yeah.
The draft, the yellow, with the yellow, you got the yellow on it.
Yeah, I got it coming.
Draft. I thought it was right on top there a minute ago.
No, I thought I saw the highlight.
I haven't got another one.
Ah, here we go.
I've got mine.
Bottom page
Number
5.
Bottom of page 5.
Yep.
No, I'm sorry, A. The very bottom, A, page 5. All water-related activities in this area are absolutely prohibited at all times throughout the year. The term water-related activity includes, without limitation, any activity in, on, or from the surface waters of the lake or the watershed, such as swimming, boating, water skiing, sailboarding, canoeing, kayaking, jet skiing, sailing, next page, fishing, diving, and the landing or taking off of seaplanes. Going back to the previous page, page 5, there are water activities I don't believe we allow at all, period, in the lake. And they are on the last line of that page. Swimming, water skiing, sailboarding, jet skiing, diving, and and diving from the next page. Those are activities that aren't allowed. There's no bodily contact currently allowed with the water. So if these aren't allowed at all, I don't think they should even be in there.
Just,
Go ahead, Jason.
Just to quickly clarify, we are debating a motion that is related to this, But the reason, so we should have prefaced this a little bit. The reason we went to the map, we determined that that is a separate process based on some of the wording, but our review with legal counsel, if you go look at level 4 here, we're talking about the watershed protection zone, the end of that paragraph there. Just references which may be revised and amended from time to time by the trustees of the Auburn Water District. That indicates, and that there's another reference in this document, that indicates that the map process update can be done separate from the process you're discussing,
Yeah, you're
amendments
discussing something
specific
different.
to the bylaws.
Yeah.
So
This is just
this
the line the
motion
map
is on making this map concurrent with the GIS-based map.
Yeah.
And that's why, so I wasn't cutting you, I want to have that discussion about, that's an awesome.
We're not approving all the bylaws, we're just
Right,
approving the map.
Right, well, but I thought while he was writing that up, we could talk about these.
Yes,
yeah. Oh, I see, I see.
We have a motion on the table now.
Right.
But just a quick answer to Bob's question, though, those are all in the restricted area in level 1. So there's
that's
nothing going on there except for prior permission and special agreements we have with some
So why would
shoreline.
they even be in there if they're restricted?
that's the kind of feedback we want, so I say let's get
I'll wait.
this motion
Yep.
I'll wait.
through and then come back to that, because I want to talk about where we are in the process for this, because that's an ongoing situation. And I want that feedback from you and
Just to be
everybody.
clear, we're not approving the edits to the
bylaws, no.
bylaws, we're simply inserting a modern map that's not 31 years old.
That's actually part
Not
of it.
inserting, so we're approving this map,
Yes,
we're authorizing this map, and we didn't
It's
mention
not-
it, but based on
yes,
our
it's-
discussion last week, we determined, the reason we did this now is we just determined that it's a separate process from this.
Right, because this has
So
to
I-
do with the original
can see it was
agreement of the
kinda
Watershed
confusing when we
Protection
started
Commission
off
that
here.
referenced a watershed map
Yeah.
that's 31 years old.
Yes.
So we are updating, and we have the purview, according to the bylaws of the Watershed Protection Commission, to update this map on a timely basis, and it hasn't been for 31 years.
Bylaws for protection, our AWD bylaws for protection.
But no, but the map was
Protection
separate
Commission,
from that too. We
Yes.
need to do that as a separate issue.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing now, is a separate issue about
Correct.
the map, to make sure we have now, we're in the 21st century, we can actually go to a link and look at the map.
Is there is there any rush to approving this map? I mean, this is an 8.5 by 11 ink print. I'd like to see the base map that this is based upon. I'd like to compare what is published now to what this entails. This doesn't, to me, hold enough detail. I would like to see exactly what,
You could go on to
This
the
is
link
based upon-
and see that
and
detail.
that's what I'd like to do.
Yeah, and that would be the most
Before-
current
Right.
information.
Yes, and I would like to see that and verify that this is accurate prior to just adopting this. This is the first time, I mean,
To have that
So my-
overlay this,
this has been in front of you for 10 minutes, and this is,
No, so sorry,
yep,
my only input was just that I personally have, in the review of these bylaws and then just obviously this discussion, I think everybody's been doing the same thing, thinking about this, and I have looked in and zoomed into it. So what we have talked about as a committee, and now I'm raising here, is that this change, once approved, we're putting a date of April 11th, as of the most recent revision that we've seen on here. I would absolutely encourage the water district and you specifically, Sid, to go through and look through it. But I think that what we're doing is kind of a formality to engage in an update to where we are currently with what we believe to be the most accurate representation based on recent discussions and research that we've done into this. And if we as a water district find anomalies or something else, at any point in time, we'll go in and flag that. And the legal advice that's been given to us by Attorney Pross, who's been advising us, and just Attorney Pross officially, is that we have the authority over any changes that we disagree with on the city. This has been discussed ad nauseum. So I think that we want to go ahead. I personally have done the research. I agree. I would love you to look at it and give us feedback. And if there's anything that's missing, obviously we're going to go through and make those adjustments. We're bringing concurrent the link, and we're replacing this old map that's just stuck here
It has
for no
to be
reason.
discarded, the old
It's
map. It's so erroneous.
And if future changes are needed beyond this, I don't know if anybody wants to talk more about it, but this is where I'm feeling right now. I think this is what the first step is to get this concurrent with the most recent GIS data. And if we feel, yeah, Andy, do you have any other?
Is there any other
kind of
trustees?
brought that.
No, I mean, I think that's important that we have something that is clear that everybody can look at. It's not a shaded map that you have to be either a map expert or an engineer to see where the boundaries are. And that GIS is the way to go, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I
And
agree.
it can be disputed, obviously can, and we can change it at any time, but now we have one place,
Right.
there it is, and the world can go onto this link and look at it. As
And I think
opposed
it's
to
significant.
As
something like
opposed to a
this.
black and white map. that
I still
doesn't
can't find
really tell us
boundaries on this
anything.
map,
And I
no matter
encourage
what,
you
I've been
to-
working with this for many years.
To be the expert and to go and change it as needed if necessary.
And it does specifically talk about, you know, the city of Auburn and their process, and everybody else who determines. Remember, a watershed is not a boundary line that we decide this is the watershed. It's a hydrology question, it's a topographical question. That says, this is where the boundary is because of the topographical maps and because of the hydrology. So it's not something that we can just decide on a piece of paper, this is where I want the boundary to be. It's gotta be done scientifically and with the engineers, and that supposedly is what this is.
Steve, I'd like to call a question.
I would-
We've been over this so many times.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, 7-0. Okay, now we're on to,
So that motion was made, just to clarify, that as part of the bylaws discussion for protection of lake, and I don't think that discussion is quite.
Go ahead, Jason.
finished. Is it okay if I just quickly tell you where we are with it? Or is that out, I mean,
Well,
that
we're talking
motion
about
was
the
just,
review, we're not on to the next item, so.
that was related to
that was the
this.
motion to add the map. Okay, go ahead.
So the process is quick, so I'm not gonna go into it.
This is the process that we're currently engaged in.
The
which is
most
not-
recent meeting, we did have participation from a member of public, Cecilia. And we talked about specific, we went through more specific changes, like the ones you were referencing, Bob, and I've made note of that. We have a current list of ongoing back and forth with, we've met with Attorney Frost one additional time to finalize some, and ask some like clarifying questions. That'll be one that we'll put on his list now, and we're waiting for a draft back from him that will then become our new draft. So this draft, unfortunately, is
It's not the updated
is
one,
out of date,
okay.
yes. I apologize, I didn't realize this
Because
was
we had a
being
good
stuck
discussion,
in.
and that really, I think.
That was actually included with the minutes.
And I had a little bit
Okay,
more.
Because of the
okay, all right,
handout.
yep, that was from
I
that.
got a little bit
So,
more.
and right, Andy was present at the meeting, sorry, I forgot that.
Yeah, so I mean, we had a discussion, Bob, you were talking about something specifically that you wanted to change,
Oh, yeah, that I would like to, I think would be appropriate to change it.
what's that?
Okay, so the very bottom of page 5,
Yep,
the part that says, the last line, these are activities that are not allowed in the lake.
No, just restricted area.
The what?
Just the restricted area.
Okay, but.
The lake allows many things, but in the restricted area from,
Swimming isn't allowed in any place in the lake.
anyway, that's something different though. That's not in the section. The section is just level 1 restricted area.
yeah, this is level, if you look at the thing.
I-
this is
Okay,
level
so,
one,
okay,
which
so
is
this
where the
is,
intake is.
Yeah.
so that's the reason they're there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's from the boat launch area to the point of pines. It's the bottom 1/3 of the lake, basically.
And it's highly restrictive at level 1, I mean, it's beyond, you can't even look at that.
I mean, the people that have camps down there have permission to go straight outside the restricted area. There's a snowmobile corridor that's historically been there. Other than that, you should not be seeing anybody out there but staff and officials.
The penalty for someone.
Execution.
What, pardon?
Execution,
Pardon? It's what? It's somebody swimming in the lake.
still
they're arrested.
$2,500.
That, so that's my point.
Right,
Page 8, very top. This is a little addendum that I just thought might
Yeah.
be. The penalty for violation of these restrictions shall be as for level
it's the same as.
Would it be appropriate to put a comma and put $2,500 to emphasize the fact?
That,
I think-
Comma, $2,500.
did Prost, go ahead, Jason, you remember
I
that
think we
discussion?
can talk about it, so I'd like to ask him that question as to whether or not, I don't remember if that was one of the changes that was made, but we are coming back, so just the changes you noted, I think we should wordsmith with him, because you're right, to me, this mentioning it there and saying elsewhere.
It reinforces.
Is-
Right.
Yeah, so as for the amount, I think we concluded to leave it out because possibly LawPec could change that. I don't remember.
So they changed it, we changed it.
I have to go through my notes.
They
Well,
couldn't change it, see.
Well, they would change it to benefit what we're doing here, so they
Right.
wouldn't
Yeah.
change it to
I mean, this is a-
negatively
this is a-
impact us.
This is for LawPac anyway.
I'd like that to be
So
looked
that's a
at.
question, is who
Let
sets
that
it up?
considered.
Is it
We'll
us
put
or
that
them?
in, yep.
Yeah.
And then the next part, protection level 3, lower watershed. 1, 2, the sixth line down, the very last part, the last half of the sixth line down. These zoning ordinances and land use policies. Land use policies, I didn't see anything in here related to land use policies. So I'm wondering, if this is referencing land use policies, where in here or where would that land use policy be referenced?
They're referencing the underlying ordinances.
Okay, so they're considering that land use policy.
Whatever's in that, there's land use policy in those ordinances.
That's the land use, because I didn't see the word land use policy. That's what,
Referring
that's
to the
what.
underscore, and if you go to that ordinance, you'll see what the regulations are and land use policies are.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. This wording also, just to alert everyone, this section is one of the minor changes that also was discussed at our last review with the attorney. So I'll get you, we will get you his revised copy as soon as possible, and we'll email that out as soon as it's ready. So, sorry
Page 7.
Have you guys,
The very middle, B, that you changed the B to C, and we added a lot in there. I'll go to the second line, the second half of the second line. These things may be permitted and designated areas of the lake within, lake ice within level 2 during specified times of the winter. And, okay, here's the part I underlined twice. Shall be noticed to the public by the District or Lake Auburn Water Protection Commission. Now, shall be noticed to the public. I'm thinking, how? How is the public going to be noticed about this? And should we put something in here or notice to the public? I was thinking, is it going to be on the website, a LawPec website? Is it going to be on a district website?
Okay, we're gonna note
Is
that.
it going to be signage? Are we going to have signage up to the fact? And then that would be how it would be designated. I'm thinking, people can say, well, how are you going to designate it? Okay? Websites, signage, physical signage. And then I put an arrow way down to the bottom, the very last item on that page. Suitable signs shall be posted and maintained to advise the public of these restrictions and prescribed penalties.
Right.
Should this new section C that was created, should we connect that down with F somehow?
I'm making a note for
Should be a
that.
connection there, putting those two together, so we've got the notice maintained and signage and anything else that's appropriate.
What you can do is put in the word above mentioned restrictions and prescribed penalties.
Yep.
So the word above mentioned will include everything said to that point.
Okay.
And you don't have to try to reference C to E to F to G or whatever, you just, anything above that line has to comply with.
Don't you?
Makes sense, good word, just to make sure.
And this isn't the end of this discussion. A week and a half or a week prior, when we put out the agenda, we'll have the latest and greatest with your updates. And anybody else can email us in or go to the next Polar meeting.
Do we know when the next Polar meeting is
We
going to be?
do. Did you remember, you didn't have to bring it with you? Or could we put it in our phone? But it's going to be at least 2.5 weeks from now.
Okay.
We try to make it in the middle of our
Yeah.
regular meetings.
and so that meeting might actually be to catch up with the attorney with the final changes. And that's where I'm going with this. Nothing is final. We
But
can
we can bring
choose
Bob too along, like
Right.
Andy's showed up.
additional
And,
edits, and if anybody else has comment now, but here's how this process works. We can choose to do a couple of things. We could have a workshop as a group. We could go through this line by line. We can continue with additional feedback if we continue to get it now. The next step, once we feel we've got something tangible, to some degree, again, not approving it, but next step would be to take that piece, and we kind of started this, but put the brakes on because we had additional things come up, minor things come up. So the next step would then be to reach out to, more formally to stakeholders.
Do you have that list that we have so far?
Yes.
Do you want to read that list, and then you guys can add stakeholders if we need more?
Right, I thought we did this, but municipal governments of Auburn, Lewiston, Turner, Poland, Minot, Buckfield, and Hebron,
Yeah.
Wapak, property owners abutting the lake or the spring road, private water companies that draw water from the lake, recreational environmental groups, ... There were others referenced in our meeting last week.
Right.
So if there are stakeholders that so one notable stakeholder that was left out, because this is the next part of
Oh,
the
then
process.
our ratepayers. Our ratepayers.
Ratepayers.
We have some today.
Great
With us.
Yeah.
One notable piece that was left out is that the next step in the process, after that first round of stakeholder feedback and review, and we talked about this, but the piece where we have some integration of drinking water program into that, so some interaction with that entity. So that's, because that's ultimately something that has to be checked off our box here. And then I think then the last part is what do we decide as a board to do from there?
And then from there, we have a public hearing.
If we decide to,
If we decide to go
forward with
forward, and then it
changes
gets
or-
voted on at a
Yeah.
public hearing, and at a regular meeting, after we've had our public hearing, we can vote on it. Once it's all been vetted and everybody's had their say, and we can decide to make changes based on the information we got through whatever. And then, once it's been fully vetted, then we can approve the changes and update the bylaws for the first time in ever. And I want to thank you, Jason and Dan. I mean, there's been a 2-year process so far already, and it looks like it's going to be a little bit longer, but it's something that's been a lot of hard work.
And also Mary, right? Mary was
Mary
involved with that.
started.
Mary
Mary
Sylvester was
Sylvester
also
started,
on the, I think she's still part of the committee, if I'm not
And
mistaken.
hopefully, we can every
Yep.
5-6 years or whatever, just make
Oh,
minor
right.
I
changes.
am now?
And hopefully make just minor
Thanks for letting me
changes.
know.
And we can update, at least every 5 years, but we can update them if something comes up a year from now, we could update the one something or other. We just are, we should be doing it every 5 years, we shall be doing it every 5 years, but minimum.
Do you know what process you're gonna use for soliciting stakeholder input? Are you going to physically send a copy of this to the stakeholders, or?
that was Jim's first recommendation. I think the
Makes
next
sense.
steps would be, but that's the first step. Then we would decide as a board how to proceed, if we will invite them to our meeting. If with the step that was recommended by the attorney was submit the copies to them formally and request written feedback. That was step one. And
With
then,
a time frame for a read?
Yeah. and then the next step, if we chose, either invite them to this meeting or have a separate meeting, we could invite them to that meeting just for that purpose. Either way is acceptable, and we would just determine based on the initial feedback, probably how we want to proceed as a board.
Does staff have an opportunity for input for, towards these?
Anytime, next
As a
polar meeting.
stakeholder?
Yeah.
I think is staff considered, key people to stakeholders?
If not, it should be
Absolutely.
listed in that
Yeah,
list
I
of
mean, if
people.
not,
who-
I would
yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
I would consider you a stakeholder. I mean, I don't know if technically it covers that, but.
Well, the
Yeah,
municipal
right.
government,
Just kind
so
of
this is
assume
a
that that is
quasi
part of the
municipal government
process.
Yeah.
agency.
So anytime, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry I didn't mention that, that's correct.
Absolutely.
So the answer to Mike is yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Is that it, gentlemen?
That's it.
Okay, good. So now we're gonna move on to, status of the, $2 million general resolution bond for infrastructure replacement.
Tanya, I don't know if you wanna grab that one?
Yes.
Some timeframes that we're looking at?
Yeah, closing date is May 19th. We are gonna have the closing documents within the next 2 weeks. And we need signatures just from President and Treasurer from the Water Board.
I'm gonna be out of town on May 19th.
That's the
fine.
deadline.
You don't need to be
You
there.
did before that.
Yeah, we'll have
Okay.
the cash on the 19th. We have to have
Oh,
bond
you don't
documents.
need to be there on the 19th for a
You
close.
don't, no,
Oh,
nope, nope.
So
We
what do
need
you-
bond documents by May 9th to the bond bank.
okay.
We're
Good.
waiting on bond council now to get the documents to us. They said we should have them within the next 2 weeks.
All right, good. As long as you
So-
know, I can't be here on the 19th.
Okay, that's fine. So I'll give you a heads up as soon as I have word from them.
Very good.
Excellent, thank you. 21 Goff Street property update.
Yep, update on that, under advisement of Attorney Cross. We have closed on that property, 21 South Goff Street, and the current tenants that are there now, we have written them, I hand-delivered a letter to them for them to vacate the property by May 31st. Again, under advisement of Attorney Cross, we have foregone their payment of rent for the next 2 months to help them get their affairs in order so that they can move out in that time frame.
That was the reason why we chose the 31st of May?
Well, it was again under advisement, give them 2 months to try to find something and get them.
Was the city helping with that or something? Wasn't there?
Well,
Who was helping out with that, trying to find them another?
I did talk to them about that. Mike and I went over there and actually met with them a few times and encouraged them to find any type of assistance they could, and they said they had done that. They're on some waiting lists. So they have looked
Auburn
into
housing
that.
or something like
But
that.
that's not gonna happen in time, that's for sure.
I'm not sure.
So,
And no rent costs to them for April and May.
Correct.
I was kinda hoping to extend it a little bit longer than that, but I don't know.
Well,
why.
we can, let's,
Why we
See what
don't
let's
need
get to
do-
May, let's get to the May meeting and see what they're, maybe you can get us another update then, and if we need to do something.
I just think we've been waiting a long time for that property, and it's not like we are chomping at the bit to do something with it right now. I mean, we probably would like to do something with it by the end of the building season, at least, you know, if we're gonna tear it down or whatever, but I don't see us having any plans for that land for another year anyway, so why?
You know, what you said, but
Yeah,
like
but
like
let's
Steve
wait
said, we
till
can
May.
revisit it.
Let's do it in May,
if we
we'll
need
address
to.
it then, if we need to address
I
something.
understand the problems, you know what I mean, and it's, right
So
now, it's a very tight market.
it's almost 6 o'clock, let's move, we're gonna talk about this in May. All right, water quality update,
Oh, was there
it's
another?
after 6 o'clock. No, we can't, we moved that, so we're on to water quality update.
Okay. Well, just briefly, ice out did occur on Friday, Friday, April 8th. This is kind of old news now, but the boat docks are in. We're doing the seasonal switch over of the ice buoys as soon as there's a calm day on the lake. And we have been releasing water out of the lake because of the, it's been quite a rainy spring, so there's quite a bit of water flow. So to keep keep some of the properties from having water damage, we have been opening the dam to outlet the water, and we're going to be doing in-lake sampling soon, so the season's starting for testing the lake. The water quality is good right now. We are starting our flushing program, but things are looking good in terms of water quality.
Excellent. Bonding for filter plant.
Yep, this was an issue, yep, this is a issue that was tabled at the last meeting. I gave an update on that. The drinking water program, state revolving loan fund, is pressing me for an answer on what we are looking to do about that bond appropriation.
If you were gonna find out what their
Deadline?
deadline was?
Their deadline, he was actually hoping to submit the list today. I was really holding him off, telling him we had our meeting today at 4. So I was gonna call him tomorrow morning, because he's looking to publish that list. He was gonna do it today, but he's holding off pretty much for us.
How much were they gonna give us? 20%?
20% principal forgiveness. It was a $2.5 million request, 20% forgiveness, $500,000.
So the question I have is, Wright Pierce, we've been using them for decades, and I think that's why we went with their RFP. But there's got to be other major companies that have been doing and replacing existing filtration systems that are out there that might be able to do it for $1 million. You know, and then we get $200,000 from the state. We split that 50-50 with Lewiston per the 1997 and 1999 agreement. We're talking about less than $300,000 for our district to have a shovel-ready plan ready for when federal money comes in hand, like Susan Collins did for a couple other things for us. She knows that we need something like this someday. So regarding the other companies that do this, is there a chance we can?
I think it sounds like to me that the bond, we need to make a decision on this opportunity today. That's what it sounds like to me, and I think where I
With Frank
stand,
Pierce? Sorry.
no, with this, whether or not we're gonna submit for this
Do we have to
bond.
borrow the 2.5 if we get approved, or can we just borrow $1 million if need be?
Good question.
Whether we wanna be on this list or not.
Yeah, if you get on the list, and we originally said 2.5, but it turns out
Right, that's
we
what I'm
only need
thinking.
$1 million, can we only borrow the $1 million?
Kevin?
We don't have to accept it, I mean, we can get on the list, right?
That's what I mean,
Give them the
when you're
answer,
on
get
the
on the
list,
list. If it comes down
They
to the
wanna- they
wire,
wanna
gives us more time.
Draft bond paperwork right now, that's where they're at. They're
Also-
looking to start drafting.
The same May 19th deadline.
No,
No,
not May
no,
9th.
this
This
is
is
separate
state
source.
revolving loan.
So
fund.
they're actually,
This is
we're
different.
approved for this?
This is not the.
This has been approved, now they wanna know if we're actually going to execute it.
You're gonna sign the paperwork to take
Take
it.
the 20%.
So.
If you remember the last meeting we had, I gave a number of reasons why, I recommended against it. As you know, we wrote a letter to the city of Lewiston. Although it's in their long-term capital improvement plan, it's not a current priority for them. It's always a placeholder, and it's not their current hot item, so they did not want to participate in this project.
I'm against it. That's,
Well-
at this point, that's my 2 cents, everybody give their, again, we're after 6 o'clock, so.
Well, no, personally, I gotta say that I'm not in favor of, especially where we'd be floating it all ourselves.
Right, okay,
With no
Right.
guarantee that we're gonna get
gotcha,
anything.
so you're a no. Kevin?
I definitely would float it.
Okay,
So let's just squash it then.
okay, so let's, all in favor?
Well, you gotta make a
We
motion.
have,
We
Are we-
don't have to make one.
Do we have to do anything?
We
Or
have
we
to do
just
it.
not, tell them no thank
But
you?
we
say-
need to
can
tell
we-
Sybil,
there should be
we
a-
need to tell Sybil what we wanna do.
Right, so,
So I'll
We
just
do
make
have
a
to make a
motion, make a
motion,
motion, final motion, that, I make a motion that we decline the offer of the $2.5 million bonding for the filter plant design, as presented.
second, second, and any other discussion? All in favor of that motion? Okay, opposed? 6-1. Okay,
Oh, wait a minute, did you, all in favor? All-
of the motion declining,
Yeah, and then, okay, there was six in favor.
6 in favor. Did you vote in favor? of
Yes, to
declining?
decline it, yes.
Yes, he voted against it.
Thank you, okay.
It said this comes up again next year, right? Well, there's always an opportunity for the SRF.
Yep,
Okay. I'm gonna announce this item, but I don't wanna go down a rabbit hole about anything other than, the gull management report. I just want the report, and I understand everybody has all the feelings about the apportionment piece, but that's not what this discussion is about. This discussion is the gull management.
yep, it's in your packet, there's an executive summary and the actual report itself. I don't want to belabor this or have to go through the report if no one has any questions, if you've read it.
Any concerns from your position about the gull?
Nope. The bottom line is it was an average year. There were the presence of gulls, but I think this proves that their, system has been effective, and they are recommending to continue their current effort next year. So,
I believe it's been effective, but I had one question when it talked about a
Yeah.
90% decrease since 2004. I understand that part of it, because how long we've been doing the gull management? Maybe 10 years
no more than that.
on that? So has there been much change from year to year, or we maintain pretty much?
Maintaining the
The
effort.
90% in bacteria levels, have we been just maintaining that 90% for the last few years? Because it says since 2004, we've had a 90% decrease. But from
90%
year to year, are we
decrease in
staying at
bacteria.
that 90% compared to 2004?
Well, 2004 is when it first hit, and that's when the bells went off.
Right, I understand, yeah,
Yeah,
oh, I understand that, but
so
the
it's-
comparison now, year to year, so if we're still at 90% compared to 2004, or are we less than that?
I think there are annual bacteria counts in this, if I'm not mistaken. But
It would be nice to see if it's gone down incrementally over the last
Yeah,
5
we don't-
years,
we don't do
Zach.
it now, maybe
It's probably
for the
gonna
next-
get to a point where it's not going to.
Right, there's
Right.
it's gonna be a curve
always
of
gonna
some
be
sort.
some
There's
gulls.
gonna be some gulls, and, but.
But no, I'm
there's-
talking about maintaining, so maybe in the
Yeah.
future, we can get just, if they can find out, all right, last year was this, because they have some number they've used, because they have a comparison.
We take a fecal coliform sample every day at the intake, and we've been maintaining a healthy level through this program.
Okay, so that's what they're referring to, is the chloroform
Yes.
level.
Yeah.
Since 2004, it's a 90% improvement, and it's been steady.
And it's been steady
Correct.
at
That's
an
all I want.
acceptable level since then. It's been
So
good.
we're checking that.
Thank you, Mike.
As
Okay.
a brief connected item, on the bills, on the costs, this Go Management, to date, as to this print, $19,667. I saw what was on the 8th. Oh, Tanya, this is just a question for you.
Yeah.
And if you could check out, I'm wondering why.
Sure.
You've got to have a definite answer, I know, but you might need to dig it up. The boat that they use to go out on the lake to get the gulls and other birds to leave the lake has been plastic wrapped over in Lewiston until at least ice out date. So I'm just inquisitive as to
That's
how we,
not the boat that they use.
Pardon?
USDA has their own boat.
they get another one, but how, if the lake was iced over, how come we have an almost $20,000 bill in 3 months?
They bill in arrears, so,
They do what?
they bill in arrears.
In arrears, so this
Yes.
is way in arrears. This is last November,
From last year.
October.
They typically bill quarterly, sometimes it's.
So that's the reason, we're looking at the last 2 or 3 months of 2021.
What is
before
the
it
contract
froze.
price this year? It was 177 last year, roughly.
Well, the estimate.
Yeah.
What's this year?
They keep the contract amount the same, just in case we need them, but the amount that we budget and we actually expend is based upon a 3-year running average, and that's just about where we've been coming in.
I'm in favor of this. If we do an RFP within the next 2, we should have that on a future agenda item for an RFP. We need to
Okay,
get somebody
we're
else
gonna move on.
involved.
I got you.
The comment I want to make is that the cost of this, even though
We're
the
not gonna.
No, we're not talking
We're not
cost.
talking cost.
doesn't reduce,
Someone's talking for us with that now.
yeah, go
We're
ahead.
not talking cost.
No, I got it. I know that there's other, so.
Thank you, Tanya.
Yes.
Salary survey.
Yes, I'd like to pass up something. Every few years, we systematically do a salary survey. That way. The last time we had a salary survey done was in 2018 by Don Tyler Associates. He's since retired. We've been using a new consultant for our HR. Her name is Betsy Olton, HR Main Consulting. And looking at what's happening in the economy, and we do not want to fall behind, I think it's time to do a update to our current pay grid. There's a proposal that I just sent around to you. It would be $5,000 to do this study, and it would be split half between half water, half sewer. This would involve interviewing employees, looking at our pay scale, comparing it to other similar water utilities, water and sewer utilities in the state, and then coming up with a recommended new pay scale. Not that it would have to be adopted, that it would be something brought back and then reviewed and then potentially adopted. So looking for,
Is this something you do every year?
no, last
No,
time we did it was
it's a couple of years,
2018.
yeah.
And that was the first time we did it in a long time, in
Yeah,
2018.
it was.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's,
We want to retain our employees. That,
we do, but I guess my concern about this, and my concern in 2018 was that we made a lot of increases and got a lot of people maybe where they belong, but then we continue to put in automatic raises. And this year, we actually did even more than that. So I guess, I don't know, I'm just concerned that if they don't make proper comparisons, not just water districts, but the actual job descriptions.
Do we feel that based on the last study that we've made the necessary corrections to bring things in line with whatever that recommended?
We did. The last time that this
We
study
did.
was done, they actually took our existing pay scale, they compared it to others, kind of what's gonna happen this time. And if you remember, they took our existing pay scale and basically bumped it up 6%. And what we've done in the meantime, since then, you can't just simply take a pay scale, raise it a certain amount, and then make everyone fit into it. There were some that were slightly overpaid, some underpaid, but we tried to adopt a grid, and then over a few years of attrition, people got into their correct slots. So that's kind of where we are now. It's still not exactly perfect, but 9% of people are exactly where they should be in the pay
My
scale.
concern is what's going on right now. That we actually, as a district, did it as well. We offered retention pay.
Yep.
We increased a lot of things because we want to make sure we take care of our people. So has everybody else. So do we want to make that the norm? The COVID increase is the norm?
Well, that's gonna be up to you.
Now, we're gonna compare.
That's not, I'll respect
No, I mean,
that's not what this discussion is right now. This discussion is, do we want to have somebody else give us
well,
a,
that's why I'd say no. I'm
Is this
trying
a
to make
different
case that
company?
we shouldn't do it now.
This is the same company that
So you're saying
updated
no.
our personal policy.
You wanna put this off?
I'm saying
You want tables?
we may want to put it off. a
The
year
guy who did the
because-
cellular survey the last time retired.
Oh,
What'd you
okay.
say,
It's
Mark?
just- I see what Andy's saying, let's put it off a year because we've already had a bunch of raises and we had a
Right.
cost of living raise.
And
we had
everybody's
a-
done the same, so right now, salaries
I
are
agree.
hugely elevated. And if we say, well, we gotta make this the norm now and make it permanent, then we could be making permanent something that's not necessary.
Yeah, so,
That's
Nobody says you have to, I mean, once this comes back, you can do whatever you want. with this. It doesn't have to be
Advocates for
adopted.
doing this, though, if you think now is so unique, that might be an argument to get this updated, to say, based on how weird things were the last few years,
yeah.
where do we end up now? I'm not
Most
saying-
want to see what happens, let's wait 6 more months of inflation and then see what happens.
Well, it could be worse.
I mean, or we could be.
So I mean,
But like, that will, you're right, that will give us a barometer of where we are, where we are right now relative to all the others. Which we really don't know.
Was the other one the same cost?
The last time we had it done, roughly, yeah.
I'm just saying we'd have to do it another year or two if we were gonna play that game. Because every 4 or 5 years is one thing, but doing
Well,
it
it might be
on a
worth,
regular basis, because right now the
I think you make
surges.
good points, I think, but I think Jason makes good points and I think it does make sense to, it's,
Get a
if
base
it was
for it.
$50,000, I'd say no, but it's 5. And I think
Get
Well,
split.
it's what,
Yes.
split, that's right.
Sewer
with
did approve it last night, just so you know.
Okay,
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah, so
All right.
I'm gonna say, I'm in favor of it, of moving forward with that,
The only thing I would ask is that somehow when we see this report that it separates out
yeah.
COVID-related bonuses and retention, whatever was done, because there was a lot of federal money thrown around. and
I think
people
that
were
has to
using
be in
it.
the context of their results too.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
And that was just because of the years that were really
Hoping that that's
difficult,
what
but
the-
is that gotta be the new
So-
norm? I don't think it should, so.
Are we in favor of this? Is everybody,
I think it's a good idea.
okay, I think it's in general, go ahead and go forward. Do you need a motion for this, or you going to just?
I'll motion to accept the HR main consulting report and estimated cost of $5,000
Second?
for increased human resources compensation.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? All right.
One opposed.
2 opposed.
Eric,
Two opposed.
you're opposed?
2 opposed.
Okay, and Andy's 5-2. Did you have, I'm sorry, Eric, did you have more comment on that?
It's just general along the same lines. I kind of feel like you could wait another 6 months a year and you
Yeah.
get the same, you know, it's just my feeling. about it.
Yeah, no, I think, gotcha, thank you. All right, the Law Pack Application Appointment Nomination Committee for July 2022, Dan?
Yep, I'm just looking for a motion to, and I will be one of the volunteers, to activate the nomination committee as we did in years previous. Anyone else who would want to volunteer?
All right,
Do we have a committee every
No, we
time?
did last 2 years ago we did, and that's what started it. And I think it was Sid Hazelton, it was Casey Geiger and Tiz maybe, back then? Do you remember Sid?
I think it was me, Tiz, and Jason.
Okay.
I don't want to be on another committee.
So I mean, I would do it Sid, because I'm now the commissioner.
So we just need one more
person that would
I'd
want
be willing
to.
to,
okay.
as long as it's not a whole lot
Andy,
of
Dan,
time.
and who? And Sid? That's,
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to, I'm not volunteering Sid.
It's up to
No,
Sid.
it's fine, no.
Okay, all right. Good, so is everyone good with that?
How, my only question, I would ask that you guys look at the structure of the previous one. I think
Yeah.
we had some dispute or discussion about who was voting, like, were you voting? Can you just cover
We'll
it?
pull up the old paperwork.
yeah.
We'll plan on meeting the 3 of us. And
And the target is July is when the next.
July, I think.
Is that when
Yeah,
they,
so
if they have to be
Camille either-
appointed?
She'll be reappointed, or we have to pick someone new that's going to give us applications. So we have to get that out there.
That's what it
So
was.
we're
a
just preparing for
recommendation
what could happen.
It's
versus-
just a recommendation, and
Right,
then the
right, right, right,
trustees will put who they want to put on
It'll
it.
still be voted
Okay.
on by the trustees.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep, sorry.
It's just, we're just doing the work, so we don't have to workshop the whole team.
Trustee open session? Okay. And then,
Oh, just one item, Taylor Pond, you guys are slated to open up in May. I'll look at you, Mike.
Me, Taylor Pond?
Yeah, we're gonna open up the water, seasonal water service.
Oh, yeah, we do every year, May 12th.
They would like to get it done earlier.
first.
I'm getting a lot of words, and I'm looking at the forecast for temperatures. We're not really gonna get much freezing.
We're working on it right now.
Okay, good.
We're flushing it and pressure it, we chlorinate it, pressure test it.
Yep.
We get it on early if we can.
Keep our water customers happy.
And you're shooting, you
That's
said for
PUC
May first even?
regulation.
oh,
That's a PUC
What's that?
regulation.
May first for it
Good.
all to be done about?
October 15th.
Yes, we
First
use.
week
We
of
do it
May?
early,
Yeah,
that's bonus,
we-
right?
That's our goal, yeah.
Great.
Steve, Tanya, we talked about putting some of the documents, these founding documents on the website. We're gonna go ahead.
Yep, I
And
put
that
in the
we-
request, we will definitely have within,
Will we have a list of which ones you decided? Because I just wanted to make sure like we have,
the charter and the bylaws that you sent.
okay,
I put in the request today, the updated budget,
that was the organizational bylaws, but not the bylaws for inspection.
correct.
Okay, I think that's on WAPEC, but we can, let's finish
We
up.
can go ahead and do that, add those as well. Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
care
it's
if
a great
anybody has
idea.
an idea.
No, I
We
think
have,
it's a
we have
great idea.
drafts now, so
Mhm.
those are in our minutes also. I don't, if we don't want to add them, we can wait till it wouldn't bother me anyway.
Yep, okay. No more information.
okay, motion adjourned.
Move we adjourn?
Okay, all in favor?
Sign it, Bob.
Thanks, guys.